collapse of this major for-profit college is fair warning to families across the United States to take care not to subject your children or yourself to the fraudulent behavior of these for-profit schools. And it's fair warning to taxpayers across the United States. We can no longer, as a nation, afford the billions of dollars which we annually send to these failure factories. I could say this, from my point of view, Corinthian is the canary in the coal mine. We now know what can happen to virtually all of these for-profit schools. Let me tell you a little bit about the background that leads me to this announcement today. In December of 2013, I asked the Department of Education in Washington to investigate allegations that Corinthian colleges were inflating their job placement rates to lure students into their programs, saddling those students with debt and not providing an education that could lead to a good-paying job. Then in January of 2014, the department responded that they'd found systemic deficiencies in Corinthian's operations, and the company had, quote, admitted to falsifying placement rates. The company was for years inflating their job placement rates to make it look like their programs actually led to degrees which led to jobs. They defrauded the students. They defrauded the taxpayers. They lied to the accreditors. They lied to the federal government. And last Monday, the company completed its collapse when it closed its remaining 28 campuses. In Illinois, Corinthian was known as Everest. It used other names across the country. This is a company under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, at least 20 state attorneys general, including the Attorney General of Illinois, Lisa Madigan. They were sued by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, State Attorneys General of California, Massachusetts, and Wisconsin for false and misleading advertising. All the while this was going on, Corinthian was raking in not just millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. Their CEOs of their company paid over $3 million a year. Here in Illinois, Corinthian operated under the name Everest. They operated 6 campuses in Illinois, and last June, when it became clear the company wouldn't survive, they had an enrollment of about 3,000 students in our state. At the time, instead of the company shutting down or letting them go bankrupt, the department kept them afloat, shoveling more than $633 million to Corinthian from that point. What's more, the department actually allowed the company to continue to enroll new students, putting even more students at risk. It defies common sense, and I told them from the beginning not to let this happen. I've also said that students shouldn't be left holding the bag for this rotten company's misdeeds. I've joined with Senator Elizabeth Warren and others, calling on the Department of Education to provide meaningful federal debt relief to the Corinthian students, including those here in Illinois. Federal law allows students to assert what is called a, quote, defense to repayment under the law. In the Department of Education, that's based on acts or omissions on the part of the school that they attended. It essentially means students don't have to repay their federal student loans if the schools lied to them. Under the federal law and regulations, the department has broad discretion to establish a process for these students to get relief. The department is currently working on answering those questions. I had a meeting as late as last Thursday with Arnie Duncan and staff about this. All Corinthian borrowers all of them should be eligible to assert a defense to repayment, and I've encouraged the department to create a process that is simple and borrower-friendly. We should not require each individual student to get up like it's a day in court under oath and to go through all the details of when they sign up for the school and how the lies at Everest College affected their decision-making. We have findings across the United States on Attorney General after Attorney General. This was a pattern of fraudulent misconduct by Corinthian from the start. Students shouldn't have to get up and make the case and prove it now to a government that has already conceded this fact. That's why these borrowers who've once been victimized by Corinthian shouldn't be victimized by the government. I've made these points to the Secretary, and others have as well. Let me say a word about the larger issue here, the for-profit college universities across Illinois and across the United States. I can't walk through the streets of this city and look up at these phony campuses that are on plate glass windows and not think about the poor families and students who are being defrauded every single day by many of these institutions. As an industry, we ought to step back for a moment and acknowledge the obvious. For-profit colleges and universities attract 10% of high school graduates. They account for 20% of all the federal aid to education, and they account for 46% of all the student loan defaults. Why would a student default on a for-profit college? Well, they might find out it's too darn expensive and they can't continue and drop out. Or they might continue to go deeper and deeper in debt at this school and then find out they can't get a job. That's the reality of many for-profit colleges and universities, a reality which we should know and deal with directly. I'm going to make it part of the Higher Education Act debate that's coming up in the United States Senate. We've got to take a look at this industry. We've got to tell families across the United States, ask the hard questions. We've got to say to the Department of Education, make it public, make it known if that school is under investigation. And most of them are, as a matter of fact. Make certain these families have fair warning before the kids sign up to go to school there. Let me, at this point, turn it over to a few of the folks who are up here. I want to, see if I get these names right. I kind of messed it up earlier. I'll see if I can do it. But first, Dory Rand is going to come and say a word on behalf of the Woodstock Institute. Dory, thanks for letting us come by.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. I'm Dory Rand, president of Woodstock Institute. Students pursue higher education because they want to improve their lives. But unfortunately, students who attend places like Corinthian or Everest College here in Illinois end up with a mountain of debt and a subpar education that does not help them get a good job. As the senator said, some of the Corinthian campuses are closing and those students will be able to discharge their federal student debts, but that's not the case for the Everest students at the colleges that remain open here in Illinois, even though they face similar false promises and dashed hopes. The students who attend Corinthian schools should not have to enter the workforce buried in debt from this bad education. We agree with the senator that every student who attends Corinthian colleges and Everest College in Illinois should be able to discharge their student debt, and they should not have to jump through hoops to do that. As the senator said, the Department of Education needs to create a simple, borrower-friendly process. Each student should not have to prove their case or hire an attorney to get through that process because, as he said, it's a systemic problem that's already been documented and decided. And they should be able to go through as a group rather than presenting an individual defense to repayment. Thank you.
Now, Abe Scar is the new director of PERG, and this is a chance to show he's got.
Hope I do all right. My name is Abe Scar. I'm the director of the Illinois Public Interest Research Group, or Illinois PERG. I want to thank you, Senator Durbin, for your steadfast advocacy on behalf of students and taxpayers. It's of great benefit to the people of Illinois and the nation. The widespread fraud by Corinthian colleges is emblematic of systemic abuses by far too many for-profit colleges whose business model is built upon the deception of students and taxpayers. And really the real victims here are the students who far too often are getting incomplete, inaccurate, or even harmful information about their options when their institutions fail them. So today we're asking the Department of Education to do right by these students and to take swift and aggressive action to allow not only current Corinthian students but also former students to discharge their federal student loan debt and to make the process for doing so clear and transparent. We also ask that they remove any institution currently under investigation for fraud or being sued for fraud by any state or federal agency from its list of transfer options. Higher education in America is critical not only for personal success but also for the social and economic well-being of our country. And high student loan debt can have crippling impacts on student borrowers. It can impact where they live, what type of career they pursue, if they can start a family or purchase a home or start saving for retirement. And the combination of high debt and low earnings can lead to default, ruined credit, or wage garnishments. And these distresses run counter to the goals of higher education. So again, I want to thank Senator Durbin, our allies at the Woodstock Institute, and these brave students who are going to speak out today and call on the Department of Education to do the right thing. Thank you.
Without a note. Well done. Very nice. Jennifer, let me see if I can get this right. Home?
Yes.
Jennifer attended the Everest College in Bedford Park. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
So I went to Bedford Park location and I graduated July 2013. I believe that the career service reps were not very helpful at all, as well as trying to find me employment, they were doing the same for themselves. They were bouncing me from one career service rep to another. Constantly, I had 4 different career service reps. At the end, the last one that I had, she did tell me, it's hard for me to find you a job when I'm also trying to find myself a job. And to have someone tell you that is very unprofessional. As someone that you're looking to help you trying to go through your career. With that, I had my instructor during the year that I was there tell me, when you graduate here, please make sure that you go to another school. And she wouldn't tell us why. So now she doesn't work at that location anymore either. She left. And I just believe that Everest, they misled me as going into the school that they were going to help me, and in the end they didn't. And now I'm $17,000 in debt without a career in the field of medical administrative assistant that I went in for.
What are you doing
Now
now?
I work through temp agencies trying to find employment, still sending out resumes, and I believe that once they see Everest on my resume, they just throw it out because of the reputation that the school has.
Angel. Pilkin?
Yes, sir.
Got it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Angel Pilkin moved to Chicago from Kentucky a few years ago. Tell us about what you do.
My name's Angel Pilkin. I moved from the eastern Kentucky coalfields to Chicago 5 years ago with the hopes of actually getting an education. And about a year in, I went and attended Everest College actually in downtown on State Street in DePaul Center. I was told that I would eventually go from having, being on disability to having a career medical administrative assistant. I went through 16 career service representatives in what time I was at Everest. When the DePaul location closed, I tried to go to other locations to be assisted, and I was refused at every location that I went to. I'm currently enrolled in the City Colleges of Chicago as a criminal justice major, which I graduate this semester. I've been informed by employers that I have sought jobs from that I need to remove Everest from my diploma and from my resume. I just need to destroy my diploma and remove it from my resume entirely, because I will not get a job with Everest on my diploma. I have had employers tell me that if I don't remove it from my resume, that it will hinder me getting employment even in the criminal justice field, because they don't hire Everest graduates at no level, because the college is viewed as a unaccredited, unaccepted program. When I have had several employers tell me that just to take my stuff and leave from their offices when I sought employment there. And also my professors have instructed me to remove Everest College as being on my resume. And I'm hoping that by just speaking out that I can help any other student not go through what I went through in getting an education. I've been in Illinois almost 5 years, and I still haven't found a job in the medical administrative field, and Everest still refuses to have any contact with me. When I graduated, I was in excess of $20,000 in debt. I paid it down so far to $10,000.
Think about that. It's something they don't even want you to talk about anymore.
No, they don't, sir.
Unfortunately, she's trying to pay off the debt that she incurred to graduate from a school that now hurts her and doesn't help her. And what did we do wrong at the federal level? Well, we said to Angel, and we said to all the other students, we're going to offer Pell Grants if you want to go to Everest. We're going to offer federal student loans. So what is a student supposed to think? Oh, this is a real college. The federal government's going to pay for my way, or at least let me borrow to pay for my way. And that's our fault. We need to have stricter accrediting standards. What's happened with Everest, what's happened with Corinthian, should be a wake-up call. Questions?
What would you say to students that have that to any Corinthian college now? Would you tell them, don't pay them another
Oh, no,
dime?
don't go in default. You don't want to do that. That puts you in a real bad position. But it is time, I think, for the department to offer them this defensive repayment so that they can basically wipe the slate clean and paying future debt. Going into default is a big mistake. So I encourage students, as long as they physically possibly can, and some are unemployed and can't pay, but those who possibly can should continue making their payments while we continue to work with the department to get a good outcome for them as well.
For Everest College students, are they in a different situation than the students at these colleges in California, these other campuses that closed?
The schools here were sold to a new company. In fact, it is the collection agency for the Department of Education which decided to get into the college business. They nominally are not-for-profit now, and they are trying to keep the old Corinthian campuses going in some places. The campuses that just announced closure last week were not part of that effort. They're separate, and they couldn't make it on their own. So they closed those campuses. So the first responsibility of the Department of Education is for the students at the closed campuses. What we're saying today is students still at the Everest College in Illinois, under the new ownership, should also have the same chance to be able to walk away from the debt they incurred at what turned out to be a worthless education.
What would you say to employers about these stories of them saying as soon as they see Everest, they tell them to get out? It seems pretty heartless of them.
It's harsh, and they shouldn't do it. Some of these employers ought to wake up to reality. If you're a high school student and you log on and put the word college or university on your computer, watch what happens. You're going to be introduced to all the for-profit colleges and universities in America, and they're going to have the coolest, smoothest ads in the world telling you you can go to college online and we'll take care of you and get you a job when it's all over. So many of these young people are from families that have no college experience. Mom and dad didn't go to college. They dream that their kids will. And these parents and students are swept away by marketing that is totally deceptive. Right? I see you nodding your head.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what are your feelings on the Department of Education trying to funnel some of these students into other for-profit schools?
I told the secretary, if you feel duty bound and they think they're legally bound to tell these students they can go to other schools that can legally receive federal funds, I said, I think you're also duty bound to notify the students when these schools are under investigation. And virtually all of them are. So I ought to be given fair notice that if I'm transferring from Everest College and I'm going to, you name it, University of Phoenix, DeVry, Kaplan, if they're under investigation or if they've been found guilty of fraudulent activity, they ought to be required to notify those students as well so that they don't get into double jeopardy. To go from Everest to another school that is going to defraud them, that's unacceptable.
When you say you hope for a good outcome, like the young lady here who's paid $10,000 of her debt, she has $10,000 that's going to be forgiven. What happens to the $10,000 she's paid?
Well, I don't know that we can reclaim the money she's paid. I'll be very honest with you. But if we can wipe the slate clean for her future, it gives her a fighting chance. I can't believe you paid that much back. It says a lot about you. You've been working hard to do that.
With disability, it is rather hard to pay
Yeah,
back.
think about that. And she's done it. And God bless her for doing it. Now let's give her a chance to move beyond this. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you.
Durbin's a